الله الرحمن الرحيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So again, we're very happy to be here, alhamdulillah, conference. And really appreciate the first half of our conference. The information that was shared was a blessing for us, inshallah. But we are in time restraints. Without further ado, we're going to get ready to begin, inshallah, our introduction of our second part of our the first presenter that we have in the second is Brother Imam Arif Rashad Abdullah from Oklahoma. He has 7 children, father, husband, 7 children, and he has 6 grandchildren. He, inshallah, he is a successful business owner. Imam Arif is also a student of psychology and theology, a student and a teacher of the Arabic language, a member of the board, members of numerous community and religious organizations. He's a hard worker and man in our community. He is doing excellent work in Oklahoma, and we appreciate him, alhamdulillah, for being here with us, and also for Allah blessing him with the hard work that he is doing. And we pray that Allah continue to give him success that's doing. At this time, inshallah, we're going to ask him to come before us. Inshallah, we're going to start the work quickly. Come before us and give us an address.
First of all, we thank Allah for blessing us to be here. I'm very grateful to be here today, brothers and sisters. Somewhere in my right mind, period. I want to, if I could, get some participation. Everything that has been presented so far here in this conference has been connected directly with what I was wanting to share with us this morning. My first teacher, the cousin, Imam Hatim Hamidullah, basically gave my talk when he did Jumu'ah yesterday, and then Brother Bashir just finished it up with his presentation this morning. So, as the Imam has stated to all of us, it's all about connections. So everything has been connected, praise be to Allah. But I would like to get some participation with you, if I could, to kind of get the jinx off of me. I'm a little nervous. I haven't been before the community or a podium maybe since December. This is something that I did with my students. I'm the founder and director, or was, of Timbuktu Institute for Higher Learning and Islamic Studies. And we had children, I had my own grandchildren there, and some of them were in campus, but they were learning the Arabic language. So if you could participate with me and repeat this just after me, this is going to give you some of the mindset of what I was trying to get across to the children. I will be a critical thinker. I will be a critical thinker. I will think outside the box. I will think outside the box. I will understand the process. I will understand the process. I will make rational choices. I will make rational choices. And if I can't teach it, I don't know it. If I can't teach it, I don't know it. Shukran, thank you so much. Praise be to Allah. This is what we were trying to instill in our children for future leadership. I wrote this stuff down, and I want to run through it very quickly. My heading goes the unwanted and unwarranted attack on the communities of Imam W.D. Muhammad. Oklahoma City, a case study. This is a personal thing for me. The Imam spoke yesterday about identity. Identity, the fact of being who or what a person or thing is, our sense of who we are as individuals and members of a social group. Identity theft is when someone uses your personal or financial information without your permission, also known as identity fraud. It's a crime and the person is an imposter. In Quran, in Surah 2 and 34, we said to the angels, bow down to Adam, and they bowed down except Iblis. He refused and became haughty, arrogant, or proud, and he was of the unbelievers. He was exposed and also reminded that he was not an angel. He wasn't of that group. He wasn't with the people. He wasn't of our community, if you can see what I'm saying. But among them, as a leader, but he became puffed up with pride against the man of God. But he was also from among those similar in his thought. So he had a support team. He had a support team, infiltration from the outside and infiltration from the inside. Two things to do when you have been wrong. The first thing you do is call the police. For us, is to contact the Ummah. The second thing you do is report the crime. For us, that's called a short. And second thing that you have to do outside of that is put a freeze on your account or stop that activity. How do you prove that you experience identity theft? Identity theft, you go, you get an affidavit, a document used by victims of ID theft for businesses that their personal information was used to open a fraudulent account. Leadership, power, position. This document includes personal information as well as a formal statement about facts surrounding the theft. We use the Quran, the Sunnah, and Ashura. I, brothers and sisters, a 24-year as a resident Imam Masjid in Oklahoma City, without not a dot of controversy, wasn't allowed in Ashura. Myself, out of all the Ashuras that I experienced in my leadership as an Imam. Who pays for identity theft? A side note. The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, allows 2 days to report making you liable to pay $50, or for a report making you liable to pay $50 of any unauthorized use of your bank or your credit accounts. But the longer you leave it open, the more your financial burden becomes if you don't report it within those 2 days. The longer you wait to solve the problem, not ratified in December myself, the masjid goes without an imam until July of this year. We have an imam Muhammad, who's here today, based on a setup or a plan to unseat the leadership. For personal reasons now, in the middle of a multi-million-dollar building project, the brother couldn't put it up on the screen, but some of you who've been to Oklahoma City, you see the beautiful masjid, over $1 million masjid that we have built from the ground. Turnkey, don't owe a dime on it. Right in the process now of building a 5-plex business unit that's going to house 5 businesses for retail. With the plan also to build a bigger masjid and use the existing masjid that we have as a multi-purpose facility for banquets and whatnot, and also an 8-plex living facilities for our pioneers. All of that's in limbo now as a result of this infiltration and unwarranted attack on the community of Imam Muhammad. So a project that has never happened in Oklahoma City is what we have just done. Never happened in any community in Oklahoma, period. Now it's up in the air And it's not my project, it's our project. It's the project for this community, the project more specifically for the community of Imam W. Muhammad. It came from that vein, it came from that vision. Do thieves usually get away with identity theft? Yes, they do. It's been documented that only 1 out of 700 thieves are arrested for identity theft. That's the stats from the material or secular world, but it's not from ours. We're Muslim. We're believers. That's not our reality. Takbir? That's not our reality. We don't let identity thieves get away. Let me say something about leadership. Leadership, this comes from the Imam. Leadership should be respected, supported. Our Imam said in Chicago, I know some of y'all was in attendance when he said this. He said that the communities who can't afford an Imam shouldn't even call themselves communities. The Quran states that the Imam and the Ulama are responsible for one another. It's made me an advocate for Imams now. You know, I have a lot more time now. I'm not a regular Imam. I have a lot, and I don't smile about that. A lot of y'all know I used to do stand-up comedy, so I always crack some jokes and just to be humorous and keep trying to kill somebody. But it's made me an advocate for Imams now. That's a serious business. We need to really talk about the obligation that we have as an Imam, but the obligations that these communities have with us and for us. My ex-role as resident Imam has allowed me time to now contemplate on the past and focus more on the future, not just for myself but my family. I also have a medical practice. At this time, I want to implement what I want to say about my dear brother without trying to get emotional, because his death, his loss is still emotional for me. It's Imam Qasim Ahmed. I was raised, first taught by my cousin Imam Hatim Amidullah. I still have that teaching style. Imam Farouk Rashid was formerly in Oklahoma, helped to raise me in my development. Imam Qasim and Imam Yahya have really been my primary go-to. Of course, we know the Imam, we don't even have to mention that. But my primary go-to, these people have raised me since I was a pup. So praise be to Allah, they have equipped me to be able to stand toe-to-toe with anybody on the planet in terms of Quranic leadership. That's what we're all about, praise be to Allah. But it was Imam Qasim who warned me. I take full responsibility for the situation in Oklahoma City, because those who know me know that I'm a real pushover for people's sensibilities and your feelings, and don't want to hurt your feelings. But Allah tells us in the Quran about the Prophet. When you go and you visit the Prophet, he tells us not to tarry on in the Prophet's house after you have visited with him, because it annoys him and he's too ashamed or embarrassed to tell you to leave. But Allah says that I'm not. I'm not. So praise be to Allah. Pray for me that we can get over that. But Imam Qasim told me years ago that I should have dated that situation. He told me point blank. Imam Yahya warned me about the exact same thing. So those of you who don't have to experience that, when people tell you you need to get rid of some folk, man, get rid of some folk. That's real talk. And I also want to take this time out. I have 7 children. I have one on the way, praise be to Allah. And we're naming him Qasim Ahmed. Qasim Ahmed, I didn't know Imam Yahya, man. And Qasim Ahmed Yahya. He told me not to give him that long name, but praise be to Allah. And Imam told me when I named my second son after Imam, he said, brother, make sure you explain to him why you did it, and give him the proper context as to why he did it. So praise be to Allah. We want to honor our leaders. Praise be to Allah. I'm gonna try to get through this thing pretty quick. And then I'm advocate for the Imams now. Imam W. Muhammad told us, and he told it primarily Imam Cleveland Al-Amin and Imam Qasim. He said this years ago. He said your Imams should be making on average $60,000 a year for this work. I researched it, and on a national level, you look it up yourself, Imam said this years ago, they have an average of $60,000. Of course, we know this is from the immigrant community. $60,000 to $100,000 plus a year for imams. My salary was $200 a month. With my skill set, I ain't bragging on my skill set, but I got one. $200 a month, bro. And sisters, that's right. You know what that added up to? $7 a day. You get that under the bridge, right? $7 a day. And then one of my brothers told me, he said, brother, you have to hold up. Because if the month is 31 days, you ain't making but $6.78 a day. And I pay my employees. I have a commercial janitorial business also. I pay my employees more than that to clean the master at that time. $200 a month. I'm just saying. So at the end of the day, when I totaled all of that up, I ended up owing my own self $40 a month. You figure that. But we want full services of an imam. We want the classes, we want Juma, we want Nikah, we want Janaza, we want counseling, we want events. And a lot of times these events are random events, not checking with you about your time and your schedule. Right? Now, we have to find a balance and respect for our leadership, vice versa. Most of us do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we should, and we are all to be held accountable and responsible for the role. We also picked up yesterday on some of what we were talking about, the youth, and we did that also today. When you look at this word youth, the first 3 letters you'll see is Y-O-U, and then T-H. So youth, is you the problem? When we talk about our youth, it's you the problem. Or you the one, either way you want to go about it. There's a study that was did about the white rhino. It was on an animal reservoir, and they kept coming up dead. And so they put infrared cameras out one night to see what was causing these rhinos to be massacred the way that they were the next morning. And they found out that it was a group of young elephants that were killing the white rhino. But they were doing it in the dark. The grown-ups elephants wasn't doing it. So this is a sign. We talk about our youth, but I'm an advocate of this, even in my children. Just because you're young and you're supposed to be the leaders for tomorrow, that don't necessarily mean you. Because there's some youth coming after you. And I've had the experience with some youth, brother, that I don't care to deal with no more. In Oklahoma City, in my mastery, in our mastery. But these elephants hadn't been socialized by the elder elephants. And they massacred these people in the dark. Unbeknownst, not knowing, not having the proper socialization. So all our youth ain't ready. All right, bro. But anyway, when you have infiltration or what happened to me coming from the inside, I can more or less accept that. But when it comes from an outsider that has no regard or good intentions for our community from the outset, it's a problem. I become the whistleblower, and I think a lot of brothers that came to the call, it wasn't for Brother Ali, it was for what we have in this community. If you could have saw the architectural design and schematic, you would be blown away, and you would understand why I have such. I'm not angry anymore, but I had I just see my mission or is we can't stop now ministry, my own ministry, right? We just can't stop now. I was an imam before I became a resident imam, and I'm not, I can't stop being an imam, so we just imam somewhere else, We want our young minds to take the reins, but with the goals, the aim, the vision, and the objectives that we have, right? To be properly socialized by us. We built an masjid following the example of Imam W. Muhammad. Very quickly, I'm closing. Following the example of Imam W. Muhammad, everything that we did, the multi-million-dollar building progress or project was based off of what the Imam taught us. We made associations in our community with people who had money, people who were Muslim, people who wanted to help to see us grow without any strings attached. Without any strings attached. Those of you who are in the conference, I was right behind you, man, in the last conference that we had in Detroit before you died. You died a week or two after that, right? There were some immigrants who came to the conference, and I remember, I know y'all saw the big design that they had, the big complex, the business complex, the home, the schools, all of that. They said that they were going to build it in honor of Imam W. Muhammad while the Imam was living in that time, right? That conference, y'all saw that, right? The Imam died. So we went back to Detroit that week. I went with Imam Rashid. He praised me to Allah. I traveled the whole country with this brother following the Imam. I was raised right. So we went back. We went back to Detroit right after the Imam's death. Those same immigrants came back to our gathering, showed the design again and said, in honor of Imam W. Muhammad, we're still going to do this thing. It didn't happen though. That's the question we got to ask ourselves. You know what? I know why it didn't happen. It didn't happen because the people who said it there with the Imam didn't follow up on what the Imam taught and gave us. So we don't want the same thing to happen in Oklahoma State. No, we don't want this because I got children, I got grandchildren, I got a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old daughter, and one on the way, So we got people that can fill these places up, right? But we don't want to go away from the model of the leader. And that's what we're trying not to do. This is brother I read. It's we didn't why it didn't happen. You know what I'm talking about. So that's my spiel. And just make dua for us that we know that this thing is going to be all right. I'm not pessimistic about anything because Allah is with us. Ya Allah, Ya ala Jamaat. Allah's hand is on the roof of our way. Assalamu alaikum. You got some time? I can rap for you.
You hear me? Yes. It's all good. I just talk loud. I really like them to be. Appreciate you bringing us the information that's about the importance of protecting our collective community, our assets, and our messages. That's very important. We have to be very careful. If you don't protect it, you'll give it away. We can't hear. Microphone check.
Right there. We're okay right there.
All right. You got to protect your assets. If you don't protect them, you'll be giving them away. As the man was saying, you got to be mindful of the people that come among us. You can't be so readily invite any and everybody. So let's keep that in mind. A lot of times when we have folks in properties, we actually give it away ourselves because we don't have enough strength and courage to stand up and protect what Allah not here lets us do. That's the heart. So we got to be mindful of that. We got to look at ourselves on that. So ma'am, we thank you very much. So again, importance of protecting our collective community assets, messages, and institutions. That's one of the points that our distinguished speakers will be speaking to us about. Legal strategies, best practices for our community governance, which is very important. Important masjid security, masjid security plan, best practice model for local communities. Gives us information that we can use to take back to our communities. And we definitely need some security measures, inshallah. And our masjid is better than, the door. If we push it, it unlocks and we get through that door. So we need to practice those things, inshallah. So without further delay, we have another presenter, Imam Abdul Kareem. He's going to come to us. And his dedication is stem out of the University of Tulsa. He's a developer and general contractor. His bio was so big in until I'm going to give him a minute or two to say something about himself. Inshallah, he's a very important brother in our community. So we're going to give way to him, inshallah, and he'll come before us, inshallah.
I'm gonna stand up. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillahi khalaqa al-insana fi ahsani taqweem. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. I'd like to greet the dear believers here, brothers and sisters. Greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum. My presentation is to talk about trust, putting your messages into a charitable trust, and even your personal family matters. You should have a trust, not just a will, but a trust. Just to tell you briefly about myself, I'm the son of Imam Emeritus, Isaiah Kareem. My father became a Muslim in 1938. He's among the first 7 ministers to follow the Prophet Muhammad. My father opened up 40 masjids in his lifetime. Takbir. And we have the papers from the Fed, so we know, we ain't making it up. They had 5,000 pages on my father through the Freedom of Information Act. You can, anyone deceased, loved ones, your pioneers, you can get their file, and they keep good records. So I have a personal interest in what I'm saying. I grew up with the imams. I'm the youngest male son of Elijah Muhammad. Not just because my daddy was a minister, my name was on the roster. When we got to Savior's Day, they said Imam Isaiah Kareem and his son. I had to audition. They flew somebody from Chicago down. I had to audition before I could keep that ministership, because, you know, we want to tell them on each other. Oh, he got special privileges. So it's very important that we understand that the Hoover Plan is still active. No one came out and said that the Hoover Plan is over. I know we got a lot of goodwill, we got a lot of good relationships, but our community is under attack. Okay? I just met a brother from Huntsville, Alabama. He almost had tears in his eyes. They started the community down there, and they done took it over. How they taking it over? They come in as a sleeper cell. They come in as a hypocrite, undercover, normally and unknowingly. Oh yeah, the fire is still here with me. Okay? They come in, they want to look at your bylaws. That's the first thing they ask for. Ask it. Let me see your bylaws, because I know as long as I act according to your bylaws, I can get on your board. And once I get on your board, I can change your bylaws. Don't push back at what I'm telling you unless you don't want to insult Satan. Your integrity, your goodness, your good character, what you want to leave behind is an insult to Satan. And this is the only way we can protect ourselves, by putting in a trust. T-R-U-S-T. The man gave us language, right? They called it that for a reason. And I'm telling you, my wife here personally, I got my hand on my taxes. I owe them about $700,000. Yeah, I'm one of them brothers. And if I didn't have my home in a trust, they would have took it. They came with the badges and the guns. I said, no, stop. This is in a trust. So I'm not an attorney, but I do have a master's in jurisprudence, and I have a master's in finance. And I cut big checks wherever I go. Big checks. So all I'm telling you is, dear believers, don't go back and say, yeah, I'm right. Please, you have to move on this. I can help you draft a document. You have an attorney here, he can review it. Then you file it, or you go to your attorney. But you have to put things in a trust. We have to protect our children, and we have to protect our women folks better than what we're doing. This is a psychological problem that we have as African Americans. Look how many of our famous people, leaders and otherwise, have passed without a will and without a trust. Fighting over the money, fighting over intellectual properties. Your bylaws become covenants once they put into a trust. Your board of directors become trustees once it's put into a trust. Alhamdulillah. That was just the introduction, right? So the Quran tells us specifically in Surah 2, 180, 2, 240, Nisa 7, 9, 12, about inheritance, rights of inheritance, and of course, at that time, a will was good enough. I don't have to know you to contest your will. I do not have to know you to contest your will. I can go and contest your will and don't even know you. So that's why now you have to put your will into a trust. Islam is much more than a religion, it's a way of life. Islam is guidance from Allah that directs us through our life and, God willing, into the next life. For this reason, God also guides us through the process of death and dying. We're all going to die. Let me repeat that. We're all going to die. And it's a sin on us, and I'm using that word very strongly, that we are not preparing ourselves, succession plan, not preparing ourselves for the ultimate thing. Our prophet, peace be upon him, say, live as though you're going to die tomorrow, and live as though you're going to live for 1,000 years. Let me tell you something. If we wasn't about nothing, why are we always under attack? If we were just this darkies that don't know nothing, why everybody want to take over our master? Why everybody want to take over our way we think? And our son, if we weren't about nothing. The reason why they want to take it over, because if we stand, that means they got to give credit to the Holy Elijah Muhammad. If we stand, that means they have to give credit to Imam W.D. Muhammad. If we stand, that means that Allah does what he said he's going to do. That he's going to reach down and pick an Ummi to lead the whole world. So that's why they after us. And let me tell you something. I've been with the best of them. I was there in '86 when the Saudi brought us all together. 10 years after Imam leadership, every top scholar in the Islamic world was at that program. Imam Hassan was there. If you was the best in Tajweed, Fiqh, Sharia, Hadith, no matter what it was, you was a top. And let me tell you something. It was Imam W.D. Muhammad boys that was the top in every class. Yeah, the Imam didn't break it down. He didn't say this was Fiqh, this was Sharia, this was so. He just gave it to us. And when Imam Umeshi them doing, I'm telling you, it's a remarkable work. And I can't wait until I get the financial support to help them. So don't think what we got ain't about nothing. If you don't feel like you ain't got it, you ain't about to get away from us. I mean, that's fine with me now. You ain't doing nothing. Then why do you keep hanging around people that ain't doing nothing? Yeah, why don't you look at yourself? Oh, I'm not saying Kareem's son. Let me tell you something right there. He just called my dad a fireball. Allahu Akbar. So we have to put Islamic wheels together. We have to put a trust together. And what we have is the best for our circumstances. I was with Imam Pastor, one of my early teachers. And I said, man, where do you get that from? He said, all you got to do is go through 400 years of slavery, and you can get what I got. Well, that wouldn't be just if Allah didn't give us something in compensation. So that compensation is the ability to think and to think outside the box, to correct the wrong that's been given to us, because no one wants to see an independent thinker. They want a bunch of slaves, I'm telling you. And this ain't going to happen here. I'm telling you right now, dear believers, do not take what I'm saying for granted. Even in your own personal family affairs, we have to put a trust together. It don't have to mean you have to be wealthy to have a trust. It can just be a simple living trust. And I'm telling you what's clean. And trusts haven't been broken since 1875. So there's many qualified people nowadays to help us with this. So a will that makes financial sense. If a person dies without a will, that's why I said they can call him dying intestate, which means that his wealth can be distributed. I had a friend. Her husband was a 4-star general. Left her $100 million. Left her in charge. Had a will. The older wives got together with the older children, and the judge fined her as the executive for the estate, put a quarter-point executive over it, and they cut the money up. A classmate of mine, she said, I only had enough money to bury my husband. And that was because in the military, they bury you for free. So again, dear believers, you got it. We have to protect ourselves, knowing that your will has to be in a trust. And I'm not talking about some central trust, somebody put that out. I'm talking about each individual masjid can have its own charitable trust. And it will last until eternity. Matter of fact, as long as you live in, it's revocable, but once you die, it's irrevocable. And the trust, I wish Dr. Nasser was here. I didn't bring an actual copy of one I put together. But it's not just a brother said, a land trust. That's good. But we want, the reason why I'm calling it charitable trust, because we not just want to protect the asset, the physical asset, we want to protect the Islamic thinking in the masjid. And don't tell me it can't happen. In Dallas, where I grew up at, we had my father, we had Yusuf Shah. Anybody know who Yusuf Shah was? Yusuf Shah. May Allah forgive his sins, grant him paradise. We had Imam Yahya, we had Imam Qasim, and we lost the Dallas Masjid. Yeah, they got $2 million in the bank, but they can't do nothing with it. So they sold for a few pieces of silver. You know what they Jummah's all about now? A whole hour and a half on wudu. How to wash your feet. How to take a bath. I said if I'd have been out, I got and cussed everybody out. My mama taught me how to wash my face and brush my teeth, and it take about 10 minutes. They want to water down the thinking so that we can continue not to be representative of what Allah has. And what Allah has, the brother said, the fitrah, right? Yeah, that's what Allah has, to grow us from that intelligent seed, that single cell that's left in why he's at. So I'm about to conclude. I don't need much time. We have to put a living look. I'm tired of us dying. The senior brothers and sisters in our community live their whole life as a Muslim, but being buried as a Christian. We got to massage the situation, talk to the family intelligently, and they, well, we just gonna go with my pastor say, because you didn't put nothing in place to say this is how I want to be buried. You didn't put it in place in case you get incapacitated. You're a medical power of attorney. Okay? It doesn't take long to do these things. Don't push it off. Don't push it aside. And you sisters, you need to encourage the brothers. Look, my friend passed. Imam David Hassan. Okay? I was with him there in Senegal. We got the Senegalese community. We with them. They are brothers. We opened up an office there. He passed without a will, without a trust. Now they just attacking his wife right now. And I'm going to put it out there, not somebody on the outside, the man's own sons. So don't take what I'm saying for granted. When people see that little money, you know that ring, what they call the Lord of the Rings, they see that little money, they lose their mind. Just because we start calling people the devil don't mean he quit existing. And the devil is a mindset. Allahu Akbar. Another thing we're going to do in our close, we need to start being more prepared for natural disasters. When I was 10 years old, I was told what I'm seeing now, 50 years later, I'm 60 years old. Dear believers, a drought is coming. Famine is coming. Now I'm like Mama said, you can buy a Cadillac for a loaf of bread. We're all excited that we got food pantries, but we don't supply the food for the pantry. We need to get into urban farming. And those of you doing it, alhamdulillah, just share. If you're not into it, we have to be prepared. Food, water, medical supplies, protection, all those things. We used to can goods. We used to have a commissary. Now, I'm not saying you got to do all this with the masjid. I understand. Get with 5 or 6 families, get together, y'all pull y'all money resources together, get you a warehouse, get you a storage shed where you can go to when times get rough, because it's coming. You're talking about the signs, right? The woman in California said they didn't have to tell me to evacuate. The whole sky was on fire. Then Allah said when our sky get red like orange. Then he said when the oceans would get swell. You think that was just some fairy tale? When the goat herder started building skyscrapers? It's here. And I'm telling you something, don't come knock on me talking about let me in. I'm saying, look, you put in, you ain't getting in. I'm telling you right now, you can be like a grasshopper, you can be like the ant. We got time, Allah's giving us time to get ready. It's going to come, you know why? Because people going to have to turn back to God. My mama told me she became a Muslim when she was 15 years old. She said, in the scriptures, son, it said that God is going to push his people by the tip of the unicorn. They said they're going to be keeping us all night trying to hear the Quran. When 9/11 happened, we couldn't find the Quran. So what's happening? You see what's happening overseas? So it's here to believe. So I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart, with all sincerity, let us prepare for natural disaster. You should have shortwave radios. You should know evacuation routes. You should be talking to your FEMA representative at the city. You should know what's going to go on when you can't communicate on the phone. My children laughed at me. I said, yeah, they laughed at Noah too. Praise be to Allah. So in conclusion, I think I said everything I needed to say.
Beautiful.
I'm a soldier from Muhammad. I still got my general orders. I know all my general orders. To take charge of this post and all temporal property you keep. To see, obey, and pass on to the civil who needs me. All orders for the commanding officer, officer of the day, and non-commissioned officer of the God only. We got something to fight for, we got something to live for, and subconsciously we have to understand that we have something that we should protect. And it's up to us. Nobody is obligated to protect us. That's why Allah said in the Quran, do not take so-and-so as a wali. You can have friends, we can have all these different groups, and I love all of that. But no one should be your wali but you and us.
That's it. That's it.
And don't tell me what they can't do. They did it in Dallas, they did it in Oklahoma, they did it in Fort Lauderdale, they did it up here in New Jersey. They're going after Imam Clyde Rockman, snatching up in Cleveland. So we have to do it legal. I can't tell you to get my hands out your pocket no more.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So put into a trust, may Allah be with us always. He is. He's with us because we were sincere. And we still sincere. And that's why Allah is going to protect us. But let me tell you something. He said if you don't do it, I'll bring somebody else along. I'll bring somebody else along. It's okay. I'm done. Say don't leave. No, okay, don't do that. Peace be upon you,
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always give us what we need.
Yes.
The presentation that just give what we need. Real bad.
Yeah.
So we know what to do, inshallah. Our next presenter is one of my co-workers, Imam Southern East Section of Medina. Imam Northeast Section.
That's right.
Imam Musa Abdul Ali. Inshallah, he's going to come to us, and I think what I want to do is let him give us some of his history. That way, what he wants us to know, we will know. I won't miss nothing. So I'm going to put it on him like that, and I know he knows himself better than I do, inshallah. So we're going to bring Imam up. He's going to address us, inshallah, security and other things that we need to know to safeguard our community and our properties, inshallah. Amen.
So I'm going to do what Imam Yahya said to give you a brief history. I'm the resident Imam of Yusuf Shah Islamic Center in Mount Vernon. I became Muslim at 15. I'm the Imam Ali Rashid out of California. I served under Imam Farouk Abdul Wali, where I got my start as being a worker in this community. And I'm married to one of the, and all these brothers will say, but I'm going to take a page out of Imam Omar Shakir's book. I'm married to one of the wonderful women in the creation. It's just like boy. And that's it. Everything else gets said in genetic. So, we've been Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له I have to say this also, and I'm the proud convener of the Northeast, one of the strongest big competition now in the South. In Nika Beam, we got the strongest section in the country. I know, look, we got security, and one of them with me, so you won't do nothing to me today. Inshallah, we got two of them here, right? So I just say that with confidence. We got one of the strongest, and I say that out of love too, because we all are strong, right? But I say that because I know of the potential of the Northeast, and we're doing good things, inshallah. As we know, in December, we all want to be in the Meadowlands. Inshallah, right? At the Muslim Journal, Time to Be Grateful. So let us prepare for that as well. So I went another route. I know we have seen masjids and protecting our property, our Islamic centers, and the objective is, upon the completion of this presentation, we will discuss some of the common issues on why our masjid Islamic centers are being lost. We see some of the issues with people coming in with their own philosophy, their own school of thinking, and we trusting them, like Imam Arif said in Oklahoma, trusting them, and then next thing you know, they're forming alliances against our thinking and our structure. So that's one way, right? We will examine, in the Northeast, we have Atlantic City, we have Masjid Taqwa in Trenton, two different circumstances, two different realities, but the same outcome. We are no longer, our thinking, our lives is not even there anymore, right? And we can say that about places all throughout the Northeast and across the country. So we examined in Masjid Taqwa Community Learning Center, Masjid Taqwa, which was originally in Trenton, New Jersey, its history, examining the circumstances that contribute to them no longer being in existence. We will show the best of Islamic practices taught to us by Quran, the tradition of our Prophet, Muhammad the Prophet, prayers and peace be upon him, and the commentary of Imam Muhammad, rahimahullah alayhi. We will conclude this presentation with what is the best practices to secure our Masjid Islamic centers in the future under the leadership of Imam Muhammad. This is what Masjid Taqwa Islamic Taqwa Community Learning Center was at the present time, at one time. This is where it was at in Trenton, New Jersey. This was the current address, 1001 East State Street, Trenton, New Jersey. This location, that location, was purchased in 1960. What was going on in 1960 among the African American Muslims? Nation of Islam. We can talk. So this property goes all the way back to the 1960s, right? Beginning with the Nation of Islam Temple number 44. Established later as Taqwa Community Learning Center in the 2000s. They wasn't sure what the year, the exact year, but I was told later on you will see that they did it around 2014. I just said the 2000s because they wasn't exactly sure. And that's actually the time they have on their former website. So, was informed that the Nation of Islam purchased the building. I wasn't sure how much it was. Under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, their minister was Minister Milton. From those who in New Jersey was there. You remember Minister Milton? Okay, raise your hand, please. So he was the minister. He was under him. Salam Muqsim. Right? Under the Nation of Islam, he changed his name to Imam Muqsim. And eventually Imam Muslim was replaced. Some people said something else, but I was put replaced. He was no longer there. In the late 70s, Imam Abdul Malik Ali became the resident imam and remained the imam for over 30 years, 30 plus years. They didn't have the exact number, so I just put 30 plus. I'm giving us the history so we can see exactly what's going on and what's happening with some of our properties that's been established since the Nation of Islam. The name was changed from Masjid Taqwa to Taqwa Community Learning Center under the former resident imam Benjamin Bilal. Those who remember Ben Bilal, I think he's in North Carolina now. I did an interview with him October 14, 2023, just not too long ago, to get some actual facts. I have a master's degree, so I'm used to doing research. So I did the best research by talking to the individuals that were there. I didn't make this stuff up on my own. So here were some of the masjid concerns. Taqwa Community Learning Center closed during the COVID-19 pandemic and never reopened. So most of us, who was closed during COVID? I know we were, right? And those masjids that remained open, alhamdulillah. But some of the masjids in the Northeast are closed. I know you stayed in Philadelphia, that stayed open, correct? So Philadelphia was one of the ones that stayed open. Most of us closed. Those who stayed open, alhamdulillah. But they closed. But what happened with them, they never reopened. And we're going to go over some of the reasons why. When the city lifted, the state lifted the COVID-19 shutdown, the Islamic Center's board made a decision not to reopen due to it being an Asian community. That's one of the keys. That's one of the keys. They are an Asian community. So that also goes in line to what the school that we're putting together, they have no succession plan for the future. So if we have young people in our masjids that you see the potential that they can become leaders in our community, let us invest in them. I heard one of the imams or presenters earlier say, let us invest in them so they can have a shareholder, a stakeholder in that masjid, in that community center. And put them in the school, or put them in one of the schools, Islamic Learning Institute, wherever school you think will be beneficial for what you know your community needs. Now, because there was no young person participation, and let me make this segue. I spoke to Imam Mujahideen Muhammad, who is connected to the Muslim Journal in a big way. He was the resident imam before COVID. He resigned before COVID took place. I tried to talk to him. He was very, very, very nice. He didn't want to put no bad news out. He said, well, we just didn't see a connection, and he removed himself. And then upon us hearing the Northeast section with Imam Wahidin Sharif, Imam Abdul Kareem Muhammad, and myself and others, we tried to set up, Imam Abdul Aziz, we tried to set up a meeting with Sister Janet, who was the board president. Janet, excuse me, I'm sorry. Janet, who was the board president. We did meet with her online, so I'm covering this part here. Many of the imams of the Northeast section heard the situation and attempted to assist her and assist the community by making time out of our communities to do Jummah, to host Ta'aleems, to keep the masjid going because of the rich history, because it was a community, a masjid or Islamic center in our community. She denied it. She denied the help. Well, let me be fair. She had death in her family, and then when we tried to meet with her again, she said, no, we're going to close the masjid anyway. So we met with her. She had death in the family. We tried to revisit the idea of talking with her, and she denied the help with me, Imam Wahidin Sharif, who was the New Jersey convener leader at that. It's still there. He denied the help with us there. So that extension of us being one community, Ummatan Wahid, so we can share in all of the responsibilities and help one another. As you heard us, Sister Nadia said, we had this in the Northeast. We had this thing of collaborating and working together. She didn't want that anymore. And her reason was because there was an aging community and they did not want to continue in that road, right? So that means in this aging community, there is no youth, there's no succession plan, there's no preparation for the future. So they closed the doors about 2 years ago, selling the property. Now, there's different reports. Some reports is, and I'm going to take the first report, that when she sold the property, many places in our community, which was in their bylaws, from what I understand, they received some money, $100. So they did invest back in our community. There are some angry people, of course, that says we don't have no report of nothing, we don't know nothing. Well, when we go to the next idea, some believers in the community was board, they said it was a board-ran community, meaning that whatever the board said, that was it. Little or minimal participation by those who are not board members, right? The argument by one of the people that I interviewed was, and he was another former imam, he says that wasn't the case. The case was in their structure, in their bylaw structure, understanding that we need to have bylaws that protect the interests of the community. So when we're drafting up these bylaws, our bylaws must indicate the protection of our community and its property. They said that the community, the people that was disgruntled, they were not paid charity giving members of the community. So in their bylaws, you had to have paid some charity, you had to have some skin in the game, as they say in the gambling world, right? Or in the business world. You had to have some skin in the game. So all they wanted to do was come, give orders, give instructions, give insight, and then not invest into the masjid or into the community at all. So that's one take on it. The other take was they didn't want it. I was a board member paying to the community. They just didn't want to hear it. So we have to look at that as well. The other concern was that we covered little to no youth. Young adult participation, especially among the leaders. You may have had youth there, but they came for Juma and they left. There was no involvement. There was no involvement for the growth of that community among the young people. So, of course, what happens is the members die off, and then there's again, back to succession plan, back to what we're going to do when I'm no longer here. What happens, it has to eventually die off, and then what happened to Masjid Taqwa, they're closed down, right? So when there's no young people, there's no young families, there's nothing but elderly adults and pioneers in our community, the zakat is limited, right? And we live in a world that everything is going up, right? So you can't give like you used to. So that also looked at the idea that there was no dawah. Invite them all to the way of Allah, the wisdom and beautiful preaching. Where was the dawah to bring people in? And I remember Imam Qasim Ahmed, rahimahullah, he said, our community is the #1 drag pick for other people and other thinking. They want us, and they want us and to give up our mind, what our history is, and what our role in the society is. So we have to protect that. So there was no young people, there was minimum zakat. So with that being the case, they did a mathematical equation. They said, well, it's time to close. So to address the idea of it being a board-ran community, here's a comment from Imam Muhammad. Do not use U.S. corporation structure to handle Islamic concerns in the Muslim community. Right? The Imam was addressing this concern in 1994. He continues, so no authority in the community should use these structures to obstruct or can cause problems in the Islamic concern and how they are to be handled in the Muslim community. He gave this in 1994 in Detroit at a sisters meeting. So he's talking about many of our communities have this idea of Robin rule of order. If you have that as a structure, that should not be the structure to handle Muslim problems. God says in Quran, refer back to Allah and His Messenger. So if we refer back to Allah and His Messenger, we can be able to handle the situation. But if we're using other methodologies and teaching, we're going to be you're regressing your thinking and your disposition and your spirit to the laws of the Lord. So this is very important. This is for all of us to take back. How are we structured? How are we looking? And if we're using this, let's use the best tools. As the Quran says, use the best thereof. Use the best thereof. Don't use Robin. Who's Robin? We don't know who Robin is. We don't know where he came from, his upbringing, his disposition, but we should know Muhammad the Prophet. We should know and become acquainted with Quran. That is the book. It is guidance. We got a problem, let's go to the guidance. Not Robin. No immediate effects and nobody left me wrong. Somebody said, this guy talking about it. I'm just pointing at it. The Quran says, those who hearken to their Lord and establish regular prayer, who conduct their affairs in mutual consultation. Isn't that what we're doing? We're solving some issues. How to handle our life in the future. So we don't have an Oklahoma again. We don't have an Atlantic City situation again. We're trying to deal with this in mutual consultation. And in this mutual consultation, we'll be able to solve and correct the issues. Who spend out of what we have bestowed on them. Allah has given us much. And we're not talking about financial now. He's given us much resources in Quran, much resources in the life of Muhammad, much resources that we haven't even touched yet in Imam Wafaddin Muhammad. There's going to be 3,023. They'll still be just touching the surface of Quran, the Prophet, and our beloved Imam Rahimullah. So, Hadith. Al-Hassan has said, people never seek advice without being guided to the best possibilities available to them. Then he recited and managed the affairs by mutual consultation. This is where I put the grade, because we all know he's going to talk about hadith, right? And this is our graded sahih, meaning that it's good. That our Bible says that this is a good hadith. Now the Imam, Shura Bainahum. What Muhammad established was the first democratic republic to renew again. Democratic means fair, where everybody will be able to participate. Now I'll stop here for 1 minute. I remember hearing the Imam, I don't have it here. I read, even the ones who are against you, allow them to vote. Because that's a fair democratic. Most of us, we didn't vote for Trump, but he was the president, right? We get the freedom to vote for who we want. So in situations like even the ones who you don't think deserve to get to hear that they're against you, allow them to vote, allow them to share their thought. Imam Aziz was with us one time before he became the resident Imam of Adam. I had a ratification, a vote of confidence. We had people, Imam, would tell you, that didn't want me there. I allowed them to vote. It was only one, but alhamdulillah. But a lot of people, and even Ramadan was there too. No one person dictating or bossing everybody. The people participate. It is mutual consensus, it is mutual decision that they all agree in or accept. It is by shura bainahum. This is Quran. It is by consultation, consulting one another to come up with the best that each other can offer, and then presenting what the people came up with. What they concluded, what is the better for them, and establishing that as a decision, the resolution or the order. This is Imam Muhammad in a lecture, it was unknown where, but it's in 2005. So we're giving our proofs. Why we need to have this community protected. Why we need to have shura bainahum, right? Why we need to protect our assets. Because again, I echo Qasim Aka, he's in my ear, you are the #1 draft pick. Those who look at the talks, you already knew this guy was going to be the basketball player. I forgot how to pronounce his name. They was hyping him up, right? We don't know if he's going to be good, bad, or bum, right? But he was the #1 draft pick. You, me, those who served in the Nation of Islam, right? Not me, I didn't serve. I came in 15 in the 80s. But those that I stand upon their shoulders, you have made me and others behind me #1 draft picks. #1 draft picks. 5 minutes. And I told you before, General. All right, because you can give an imam or someone a mic, you know they can go all night. Right? So let's continue. Let's get out of this. Let's move on. This is the advice. And remember, Luqman said to his son, admonishing him, "O my son, join not in worship with Allah, for false worship is indeed the highest wrongdoing." This is advice for the future. This is advice for the young who's coming behind us. I'll be 55 November 7th this year. I'm looking for someone to come behind me and give them the advice to accept God as one, to accept the prophet, and defend the leadership of Imam W.D. Muhammad. Do not let that go. We're not the Trinity, but we're standing upon the shoulders of a great mind, a Quranic mind. Our youngsters will find something to do. This is Imam talking, right? In Chicago. They will leave that which is dried up. You want to know why they're not in the masjid? You want to know why they're not around us? You want to know why you can't get them in the mosque? Because you're not doing it. You're dead land. You have not, all of us have not. I'm not pointing at you, I'm pointing at me too. We have not did anything to give it youthfulness and some moisture to keep the plant growing. Our creation is like a plant. So you have to water the plant. If you're not watering the plant, it won't grow. They will leave that which is dried up and pass away. They will leave the dead and find the living. There's groups out there of other schools of thinking that's inviting them to be relevant in their community. We wait till we die off and say, now I need help. We need to get them right when they're young. Get them interested in this Quran. Get them interested in Muhammad the Prophet. Get them interested in Imam Muhammad and this beautiful historic community that took place in America. We must invite our young to take hold and more responsibility so our communities can grow. They must become learned in the religion, studying the Quran, traditions of the Prophet, and commentaries of Imam Muhammad. Stand up, you mighty soldiers of Islam. Stand up, you brothers and sisters that's in, stand up, because they represent that for us. Let us support that. which he fulfilled. Allah said, I have certainly made you an imam for all the people. Abraham's request or asking, will that be their offspring? And he says, no. I will not give my covenant to the wrongdoers. So we have to put this logic, this language in the hands of good people. People with good character. Starting off with character, don't you know? People with good character. People who have good name. I got 2 minutes, right? 1 minute, right? I'm finished. The prophet sent me together. This is Ali, right? This is Ali. Sent me together. And I said, are you sending me, this is a young person, Ali, we know Ali, right? Young. Are you sending me to a people when I am young and have no knowledge of judgment? The prophet had placed his hand on his chest and said, may Allah make you steadfast and help you and get it right. If two dispute come to you, do not pass judgment in favor of one, of the first one, until you listen to the other one. Listen to the other one what they have said. You slow down, right? So I'm trying to get the time. No, I'm getting out of here. You won't talk about me. That is more helpful, and I think we'll do it in a good way. That is more helpful, and will enable you to reach the correct verdict. Since then, I have become a good judge. Here's advice to the young. They're going to make mistakes. Let them make the mistakes. Guide them. Put them in the responsibility. I know a place, I'm not going to name, and I'm worried about their history. Because they're putting people in rotation to do the Jummah that is not, have still associated partners. And it's in their doctrine. Now, if you get them long enough, they might become the leaders of the nation. So why don't you put the trust in the younger ones, let them make that mistake, and guide them, at least you know the community is secure. It is narrated. The prophet sent me, and it goes on. This is a great hasana, because in collaborated evidence, this is all agreed to be hasana, meaning that it's the most excellent, most beautiful. And then the verse, invite them all to the way of the Lord with wisdom and kind advice, and only debate with them in the best manner. Surely your Lord alone knows best who gone astray in his way and who is rightly guided. That is it. This is my personal examination of in a 15-minute capsule of our status and protecting our property. Let us. They closed down. They're no longer in existence. It is now a church. We have Atlantic City, who has now kind of got into the Sufi Tawaf. Many of you may know them. They have the Black Masjid of Impact, Black Leadership of Impact. I know we like to go to the black thing, but we need to be sure what the black thing is talking about. Because they're not talking our language, right? Because they mention Quran, because they mention the Prophet, what is the motivation? We're not going to sit there and just do dhikr all day. Dhikr is very important. But we have work to do in our community. God says invite them. You all know, you all were selling papers, fish, everything else. So our mission is not stopped. We have to go out there and invite them to where the Lord wisdom preaching. I pray about it, whatever I said was good. Alhamdulillah. Anything bad, please correct me outside when I'm on the plane. May Allah bless us and guide us, protect us always. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. السلام عليكم.
again, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Appreciate Imam Musa for that inspiring testimony, information for us. So we can take back again to our own localities and learn and implement, inshallah. We pray Allah that He blesses us through these things that we're learning today. Keep our properties and our communities safe, inshallah. We have coming before us our sister, who's one of the students who's in the class. We have, what I understand, she's one of the better students, inshallah, that's my understanding. And we're really proud of her, alhamdulillah. Pray Allah Ta'ala continue her to do the good work that she's doing. Allah be with her, inshallah. So her name is Sister Nabia A. Aziz. So I'm going to let her come up and do her own introduction because she knows herself better than I know her, inshallah. So with that said, I'm going to give way to her.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm not nearly as charismatic as these other brothers, but they gave y'all some excellent information. There are some sisters I see standing up. There are plenty of chairs up front. Please make room for the sisters. I was nervous because it was a room full of brothers, and I know the sisters are going to go home and do what I'm asking y'all to do. So sisters, come on in so we can get this work done. All right, so inshallah, I'm going to sum up some of the things that our brothers have discussed. Okay, I'm going to sum up some of the things that our brothers have discussed in a checklist that you can take home to your masjid. So everybody should have one. It may be orange, it may be blue, but it's a checklist of things. These are questions. So what I want you to do is I want you to follow along with me. That way I know you're paying attention. Fill in the blanks as we go along. But this is a checklist for you to take back home to your masjid or your Islamic center. And all I want you to do is just state, does our dissolution clause, what does our dissolution clause say? What does our dissolution clause say? And are there any restrictions on who may hold a leadership position in our bylaws? So our masjids, our Islamic centers, they're faith institutions, so they're automatically nonprofits. And I know sometimes we have these debates about should we be a 501c3, should we not? We're religious organizations. We're all nonprofits already. The government already gives you that designation if you choose to benefit from it, right? And if you want to start an additional nonprofit, you can, but you already get those protections. So, as a nonprofit, nobody owns a nonprofit. So if you decide to dissolve or if you decide to close your masjid and you have money in the bank, you have to say where that money is going to go. You can say it can go to any nonprofit and, you know, it could end up anywhere. Or you can say that it goes to a nonprofit under the leadership of Imam Wahid Muhammad. Under the leadership of Imam Wahid Muhammad, you can decide how you want things to be dissolved, and that should be written into your bylaws. Also, who may hold leadership, right? So we've heard about, and several of us have stories about how our masjids become commandeered by people who don't subscribe to the same belief system. They believe in Islam, but they don't have the same logic and thinking that we do. So what do your bylaws say about who can be in leadership positions? What do your bylaws say about what it requires for you to be able to come and cast your vote? What do your bylaws say about how long you have to be in good standing before you can cast a vote? Can I come in 30 days before the election, pay zakat, and now I can vote to overthrow the resident imam? No. That needs to be in your bylaws. Because in a lot of our masjids, that has happened, and it still can happen because there's nothing in our bylaws that clearly states, you know, who may hold leadership positions, what a member is. And it's not current because it hasn't been updated for the last 20 years, right? All right, number 7. Are y'all following along? Y'all filling in your blanks? Okay, all right. Number 7. Who or what name is listed on our deed? You can also put lease there. So if you have a lease, you don't own the building, or if you are an owner of your masjid or Islamic center, whose name is on the deed? Right? Because a lot of our masjids have long histories. Is it the person who founded the masjid and he's no longer living? whose name is up there? Do you have a copy of it? Do you have a current copy of your deed? Do you know how to get a copy of it? Do you know where to go to prove that you have ownership over your building? Number 8, do we have a relationship with our city and our state elected officials? This is really important, right? We have to be civically engaged, and we have to have a presence in the communities in which we live, right? It is not enough for us to just preach to Muslims. We have to be involved in the community, and we have to exert our power within the community. When people are running for elected office or making legislative decisions, they should feel like, oh, we need to check in with the Muslims and see where they stand on this, right? So what is the relation? Do you have a relationship with your city and state elected officials? If you needed to meet with the mayor or you needed to meet with the city council in the next 30 days, could you get an audience with them? Do you have an established relationship, or have they never heard of you? If you called or texted your elected officials, would they respond to you within 72 hours? Would they pick up the phone when you called on the first ring? My city councilman called me the other day, you know, on the way here, called to really just have a casual conversation, right? But that's important, because I know if something were to happen, when we have issues at the masjid, I can reach my city councilman on his cell phone and let him know what my concerns are, and know that I have somebody in my corner to help us at the masjid, right? And the same thing applies to people who are in public works and, you know, the police department, all of those things, right? You need to make sure you have those relationships. I see hands. We'll do questions at the end if Sister Rita says it's okay. All right, so we're moving on to the next one, number 9. What knowledge, skills, and abilities do our board members have? So I've been at a lot of masjids, and at a lot of masjids, to get on the board, all you have to do is do this. You raise your hand and say, I'm interested, and they say, okay, you on the board now. Alhamdulillah. They haven't looked at your bio. They don't know what skills you have. They don't really know your character because they only see you on Friday. But you raised your hand, so now you're on the board, and now you're in charge of making directional and visionary decisions for your masjid, right? So have you seen the bios for the people who are on your board? Have you ever seen it? Do you know what they're good at? Do you know what their strengths are, their weaknesses are? Because Shura requires the person to be skilled in that thing, right? You can't just take Shura with a bunch of housewives if we're talking about construction, right? We need to take Shura with some tradesmen and some people who know about construction, or else it's not Shura. All right? Are they in compliance with term limits as legislated in your bylaws? And are they in compliance with the membership requirements as stated in your bylaws? Are the people on your board even paying zakat? Do you know? Do you have a way of checking? Do you keep track of it? Because I'm sure most of your bylaws say that you have to be of good character, you have to pay zakat, you have to do this, you have to do that. Have you checked? Okay. So the next one, number 10. Do we have an annual operating budget, or do we just pay the bills when they come? Right? So some of us, the bill comes, we pay the bill, hope we have enough to cover it. In the wintertime, I know at my masjid, when we had oil, it'd be like, oh, we gotta save up some extra money so we can stay warm this winter. But if we have an annual budget that's predicting what our bills are over the course of the year, we can plan for it, right? If we have an operating budget, we can start making a plan for how we're going to pay our imam and include it in our budget, and then work backwards and say, so if this is how much we need to sustain us for the year, then this is how much we need to be bringing in. And we chop that up. We have 100, 150 members. This is what each member should be contributing to make sure we have enough to cover our operations, right? And make sure we have those sadaqah requests in to cover our operating costs. All right, number 11, how do we ensure that donors and members receive tax donation letters in a timely manner? And that they receive them at all. And in order for them to receive them, we have to be tracking it, right? So we have a lot of trust issues in our community, we found. We know, because we're here, we're in it. We have a lot of trust issues, and a lot of them are around money. I give and I give and I give as a zakat, and at the end of the year, I go see my accountant. I have letters from everybody else. I don't have anything from the masjid. Well, I've been given. Where's the record, right? How do I know what has come in, what has been received, and how it was spent, right? If you have an operating budget and you're keeping track of people's payments, giving them something in writing that shows, thank you, brother, for your contribution. For 2022, you contributed X amount of dollars in soccer. We need to have a record of that. Number 12, how do we know who is and who is not a member, and how often do we audit this data, right? So at my masjid, I've been going through a membership drive, right? And the elders, they fighting me. Oh, I've been a member for the last 50 years. They know me. Do we? I don't know your number. I'm not even sure what name is on your driver's license. I know what they call you, right? How do we know who our members are? How are we tracking that information, right? And then that leads to when we have votes on changing our bylaws and making major decisions, we know who our members are, so we know who gets to weigh in. The next one, I have CRM as a subset to that. So a CRM is a constituent relationship management tool, or a customer relationship management tool, but some of you may know it as a database. It may be a spreadsheet, but now there's a lot of really advanced tools that can help you keep track of your members, keep track of their donations. There's some that are simple and just are collecting names and amounts. There's some that are advanced that allow you to send your newsletter out with it, send text messages out to say, Eid Mubarak, today is Eid, so that you don't have to have somebody answering the phone all night long, right? You can just send out a mass text message to everybody and everybody got it, right? They have them where it'll automatically send out your tax donation letter. They donate, they automatically get an email with their donation letter, right? So there's several different tools. My personal favorite is Network for Good, but there's Breeze and Tidely and Givelify and all of these different church management software. If there's any software developers, we can design a zakat management software. The next one is, how do we communicate with our community, right? How do we get the word out when something is happening? How did people know that the masjid was closed? Did they show up and the door was locked? Or was there a systemic way of notifying people and communicating with them? Do we have a newsletter? Do we have text or calls? Do we have a website where people can go and find current information? I like to travel. When I go, I always check to see what masjid I'm going to go to, right? And sometimes I go to the website. The website hasn't been updated since last Ramadan. I don't know what time they open up, what time they're praying, all of those things, because we don't really have our community's uniform, right? Everybody wants autonomy, so everybody's making prayer at different times. They're open at different times, right? They might have Jumu'ah, have Talim, they might not. So how are we communicating, and how are we making sure that the content is available for everybody? Number 13, when was the last time we did, I skipped one. The frequency of annual meetings and or open board member meetings. This one is very important because as a nonprofit, your board meetings should be open to the public. So it doesn't mean that the person gets to come in and ask questions and interrupt, but they should be able to sit in. They should be able to request a copy of the meeting minutes. They should be able to ask, well, what's the agenda for next week's board meeting, right? Those things should be available. You should be announcing that the board meeting is going to be on the third Sunday, and everybody is welcome to come and attend. It also helps you stay on your best behavior, right? Because I've been in those masjid board meetings where everybody is arguing back and forth because it's just the 6 of us. If the meeting is open and there's some witnesses there, it puts you on your best behavior. You can actually do business and not get involved in the personal stuff, right? All right, number 13. When was the last time we did an internal or an independent financial review for our finances? I didn't put audit Sometimes if we aren't making enough money, we don't need a full audit, but we can do a financial review. It's like a mini audit. But it doesn't have to be external, it can be internal. Pull the bank statements and have somebody randomly pick from each month 1 deposit and 2 expenses and put them all on a list and ask the treasurer to produce all the documentation for those things. That's super simple. You can do that in-house. You don't have to call an accountant, any of that stuff. Pull a deposit and 2 withdrawals, 2 credits from each bank statement for the year, and that's the list, and y'all do an internal audit to make sure you have all your paperwork and your systems together, right? That you can document what's coming in and what's going out. Number 14, what checks and balances are in place to ensure that there are no misappropriations of funds? Saying Assalamu Alaikum does not ensure that there's no misappropriation of funds, right? Some people say Assalamu Alaikum and they still do things that they shouldn't do. So things that you should consider here. How many signers are needed to write a check or withdraw funds from the bank? Is the treasurer the only person who signs checks? Is he writing checks to himself? Could he? What measures are in place to prevent things like that from happening? Do 2 people count the cash and the checks before it gets deposited? Right? So are we making sure you count it, now I'm gonna count behind you, we both sign off and put it in a record so we can say, oh no, this is who signed off and say how much was supposed to be deposited. Does the same person who collects the cash, are they the same person who's depositing the cash? This also applies to the mail, right? So is the same person who's opening the mail and opening the checks, is that the same person who's depositing? Because if so, how do you know that everything came in and goes into the bank account? And then number 15 is how much money can the treasurer or the board spend without needing a full vote of the community? This is another reason why you may want to keep your bylaws updated. Maybe right now y'all have small dollars and you may say, I don't want the board to spend more than $500 without the whole community voting, right? But as you start doing better, maybe you say, well, I don't want the board to spend more than $5,000 without us voting, because we're doing a little bit better and we don't want to stifle them. We want to make sure they can get business done, right? So how much can they spend without them needing to come to you? Or does the board just think they can make any decision and they don't have to come back and check with you? So I said I was going to add 2 bonuses and then I'm going to sit down before Sister Rita gets me. So the bonuses were inspired by my brother. So these are for you. These are for you individually. Do you have a will? Both of them. Do you have a living will that says if I can't make decisions for my medical care, this is what I would like to happen and this is who I would like to have in charge? And do I have a will for after I've passed away that says I'm a Muslim and I want to be buried as a Muslim, or is your imam going to have to bust with your auntie because she's saved and she want to make sure that you're buried as a Christian, right? Put it in your will and we don't have to talk about it, right? So a living will for when if it's something, Allah forbid, that you're in the hospital, you can't speak, you can't make decisions, you cannot tell everybody what you want to happen. And a will for after you have passed. And number 2, bonus number 2 is, do you have life insurance? And is the masjid the beneficiary? Because that's the thing, right? When I pass away, I can have the masjid be the beneficiary of my insurance policy, and that way I can ensure the legacy of my masjid without it coming out of my pocket, right? So you can have multiple beneficiaries, you can have multiple policies, but this is a way that we can build wealth for our communities as well, is by making the masjid the beneficiaries of our insurance policies. I hope this was helpful. My contact information is on the bottom. Thank you all for listening. Does anybody need me to go back?
Number 6.
Number 6 is, what does our dissolution clause say? And are there any restrictions on who may hold a leadership position in our bylaws? I can't take questions, but is there any numbers that y'all missed? You can shout. Number 11 is, how do we ensure that donors or members receive tax donation letters in a timely manner? Number 8, do we have a relationship with our city and state elected officials.
You need to add county to that.
And county. All right, so if my city is a county, but if your county is just a county, add county. All right, anything else? 15. Look, y'all not paying attention, I just said it.
That's a problem.
Number 15 is how much money can the treasurer or board spend without needing a full vote of the community. Thank you so much for your time.
Sayyid Muhammad Kareem. I greet this distinguished assembly with Assalamu Alaikum. Dear believers, I'm here to present a perspective from my experience as an attorney. I've been an attorney for the last 40 years, and I've worked in the government. Currently have my own firm, and I've been a member of this community since 1975. I am blessed to say that when Imam Wafiddin Muhammad made the Hajj in 1977, I was with him. And there was 300 of us. Many of us are no longer with us physically. But I want to say also that I've sat through these presentations, and I am so relieved that we have a legacy. That I listened to Imam Bashir Ali, Mubashir, and others, and we are a treasure. You know, a business's biggest asset is goodwill. Our goodwill is the tafsir of Imam Wafiddin Muhammad. And I worry, but I don't worry anymore. Because I heard a call to faith saying, believe in your Lord. And we believe. And so I want to thank Imam Bashir. I want to thank the conveners. I want to thank the people who organized this. We're talking about, my presentation is about how to protect our physical assets. But there's no point in protecting our physical assets if we're going to be in the Islamic abyss of dhikrs and prayers and having no connection with the life of the Quran and the Uswa and the example and the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We have that, and that was given to us in this first presentation. Go back, look at that, inculcate that, and make that part of your reality, because that's why we're preserving these buildings, in order that the new Christ will live on. Like the old Christ, of course they misrepresented everything he stood for. But for 2,000 years they have been promoting a Christ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us a new Christ. Imam Wafiddin Muhammad, the Mujaddid, the Messi, all of those things he was. And he answered all the questions. He brought Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam out of the history books and into the living reality. And so that's why we're going to protect these buildings. Okay, now, to protect your masjid, I'm going to recommend a couple things that you should do. Number one, do not name yourself after your masjid. You are not a masjid. The masjid is an asset. You are an Islamic society. So what you do is you have a name as an Islamic society, and then that society then owns the masjid. Has the masjid as an asset that it owns. So when the people come and they're running, they want to see your bylaws, they want to get, they can get involved in something in the masjid, but the masjid itself has no membership. It can't be taken over because it's not owned by the people who happen to be making salah there. It is owned by our community. I'll give you an example. We are the Ali Khan Islamic Center in Prince George's County, Maryland. Our name is the Islamic Society of the Capital Region, Incorporated. But our community is the Ali Khan Islamic Center. So when you come to the Islamic Center, you can't take it over because you have no way of owning it, having any possession in it, because there's another separate entity that has the control and the ownership. Well, how do we protect that? Sister mentioned bylaws, and she made some excellent points. Everything she said was excellent, was quace. Now, in the bylaws, to become a member of our association, you must give an oath, a pledge that you will support the tafsir of Imam Muhammad. Among other things, of course, you have to believe in Allah, believe in His messenger, the angels, the books, the last day, all those things. But you have to also pledge that you support the tafsir. That is why what happened at the first session is critical. Because the judge is going to say, what is the tafsir? What do you mean tafsir? What do you mean the body of knowledge? So what these brothers are doing, what Imam Mubashir doing with the fifth and with the tafsir, they're codifying, is the term to use. They're codifying what it is that we will use when we go to court, when they try to take our stuff and say they have not accepted this, they don't represent this, they're not about this. The judge said, well, you don't qualify. Get out of here. But we have to have that body, and we have to have in our bylaws the requirement that you pledge. And also, not anybody can join us. They have to first be followers of the tafsir, or you can't. You're not qualified to be a member. And we won't let you in. But you can come to the Jummah, you can give zakah, you can be on these committees, you can help clean up the mess, you can do anything you want to do. But you have no aspect of the leader of the people who have the actual controlling interest, because you're not part of our society, our association. And so, to protect that piece of property, to protect that bank account, excellent ideas about audits, about internal and external audits. I mean, I love our treasurer, but everybody has to have some of the eyes to make sure that everything is okay. And so, just like the treasurer, nobody's irreplaceable and nobody's a dictator. Our imams are answerable to the community. We bring the imam in, and if it's appropriate, 2 minutes, we will set them down. So, dear believers, it's very important that you look over the numbers. It's very important that you communicate with the believers to let them know that they have contributed, and that having a budget, saying we need X number of dollars, so dear believer, we're recommending that you agree to this amount. Yeah, the Quran says 2%, but also the Quran is, the sadaqah is without limits. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. First, I want to thank all the conveners. I'd like to thank all the conveners for this concept and bringing us together. This is, I think we'd all agree that this meeting is coming together of the believers, is coming together of minds. It's vital. It's vital to our future. Alhamdulillah. So, I wanted to speak about the protecting and securing the legacy. Protecting and securing the legacy of our community, of our masajid, in our legacy, we have, let me just tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Imam Yusuf Ramadan. I'm the resident imam of Masjid Nuruddin. I'm the resident imam of Masjid Nuruddin, Corona, Queens. The property was originally purchased by Malcolm Little, aka El-Haj Malik El-Shabazz, Malcolm X. So it's a historic property. I was very gratified to hear the previous speakers because they're speaking directly to me, and I'm sure many of you all have similar situations. When I first was selected by the community to be the imam upon the death of Imam Qasim Bakruddin, Rahimahullah, it was 2 months before 9/11. So I came into that leadership, you know, having security as my business. I'm involved in the security field, and then I was blessed to be personal security for Imam Muhammad on many occasions all over the country. And so when I got the call about 9/11, we had a Clyde Muhammad school that went from K through 12. So we had students there at the school. There was a no-fly zone in America. Y'all forgot that? No-fly zone. I'm not talking about Iraq, I'm talking about here in America. No-fly zone. I left my home in Westchester. I drove to Queens. I was the only car on the highway. No other cars on the highway. I went from Queens, I went from Westchester to Queens to help arrange for the students, particularly the sisters, because our sisters are uniquely identifiable, and particularly in very sensitive times like we're living in right now. Very sensitive times. You know, my daughter was just sharing with me the other day that her and my grandson, who's 7 years old, was in the supermarket, and he said, Allahu Akbar. Ordinarily, our reaction would be a smile. But the other folks that when they turned around, they were on edge. Because they've been taught that this conflict that we're living through now is a religious conflict, and it is not. I don't care if you're a Palestinian Jew, and they are Palestinian Jews, Palestinian Christian, or Palestinian atheists. They have Palestinian atheists. Their property got taken too. So it's nonsense that this is a religious battle, right? This is propaganda. That's a religious battle. So we had to make sure that those students got home. We had to call up people to come with cars, and particularly take the high school students home. You know, the younger students had buses, or their parents came and picked them up. So this is how I came into the leadership. And before that, I was a security director for 10 years at the Masjid Nuruddin Muhammad School. I think that we have a legacy that came from what we refer to as the first resurrection, right, under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we still say the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You know, I gave a lecture one time at a college, and you know, he said, some of the immigrant brothers said, oh, it's a very good talk, brother. But why do you say honorable? You're not going to tell me how I should feel about my grandfather, my spiritual grandfather, even my biological grandfather who was a Christian. You don't think I love him? Yes, sir. You must be out of your mind. Okay? So you're not going to tell me who my heroes are. And of course, under Imam W.D. Muhammad, you know, we came into what's called the second resurrection. But really what I want to do now, and I have another meeting with the security, the amirs of security for the different masajid later on today. But I want to bring up our mindset or as our level of, I want to raise the consciousness, to use a term that was popular before, raise the consciousness about security and how we secure our masajid, how we secure the members of it. You know, we came from a time when we didn't let sisters go home alone or we didn't let, we escorted sisters to the car, to their cars after we had these are things that we're dealing with today. So not only do we want to secure our physical plant, but we want to secure, as I said many times today, the tafsir of Imam Wartha D. Muhammad. Is that correct? Yes. So, you know, we instituted, going on 2 years now, a sister called me almost 2 years ago, and she was in the first. And she called me on a Friday morning. Now, I usually like to take calls before Juma. You know, I'm trying to get my mind together and everything. But I know the sister, she's a good sister. And I said, well, let me take her call. She said, well, you know, Brother Ma'am, I don't know how to say this, and I'm kind of embarrassed, but I don't really know my salat. I said, well, I'm glad that you called me, because I had been thinking about that, and I actually reached out to a brother to ask him to do a Zoom class. We do a Zoom salat class every Sunday at 11 a.m. And I said, I think this would be perfect for you. And another brother was assisting him. So he went out and he called me. He said, the other brother was, I don't want to say his name, but he said, yeah, Brother Ma'am, I spent $650 and I bought us some books, you know, and I'm sending you a copy of the book for you to peruse, for you to look it over. And so when I looked over the book, you know, I said, well, this wouldn't be acceptable for us. He said, why not? And I said, well, first of all, he said, but I spent $650. I never told you to spend $650. I didn't tell you to do that. And you should have let me read the book before you went out and spent the money. I said, now, if this is a reputable bookstore, you should be able to, if you can't get a refund, you should be able to exchange them for some other books. But I came to find out that he was of that Salafiyya mindset. Okay? Now this is a kid that I raised, you know, but he went to prison and he came back, and those prisons are rife with that mindset. They have a real jaundice towards Imam W.D. Muhammad in there. And they don't even regard the Yusuf Ali translation of the Quran. They reject that. And Imam told us that, you know, the Yusuf Ali translation is a very special translation. So they don't like that. They even want to come with. One brother told me that someone told him that if you have a Yusuf Ali, you should throw it in the garbage. And he even asked him, well, is the Arabic the same? I knew you were going to say that. And why are you telling people to throw it in the garbage? So everybody, this is something that I want to share with the security, but I just want to give you I just want to share some of it with you briefly, because I want our consciousness to be raised about the value of securing us. You know, in New York, they attacked, in New Jersey, they attacked the mayor at, I believe it was at Fajr prayer, stabbed him. One of the brothers that was in the ranks came up, or not brother, but some nut came up from the ranks and stabbed him, you know, and they were able to capture the individual. Alhamdulillah, he didn't have a gun. It could have turned out a lot worse. Another individual came in and punched the man, you know, during the prayer. So, you know, it's important. We come from a legacy of where we used to check. Everybody said we were crazy. Those Negroes are crazy. Well, now you can't go nowhere without being checked, right? So, during the Jummah, you know, the Imam didn't want us to check people during Jummah, but we have to be alert. We have to be vigilant. And in some masajid that I've been to, they even have armed security. I myself don't particularly like seeing a sidearm during the prayer. I don't like that. I think we should be armed. We need to be armed, because we don't know. Imam Musa just sent me something where CARE just had to cancel their affair in Arlington, Virginia, because they got a bomb threat. Now, recently in Washington, D.C., Imam Benjamin is here, and Imam Talib Sharif has shared with us that they got a bomb threat. So this is something that, that we've talked about throughout the years and that we did training on, which is a bomb threat and search procedure. Something that we won't go into the nuts and bolts of these things now, but we just want to show you that a lot of these things, a lot of these topics that we believe should be neutral, or should be objective, they are really political. So if we just read on securing houses of worship around the world, let's put out my ACES, which I'm a member of, but the way something is presented, Imam Muhammad told us one time, he said, everything is subjective. He said, you might be painting a fence. And you say, what's subjective about that? He said, but if it's hot out there, and you've been painting that fence for a few hours, your mindset might be getting changed a little bit, right? So they start out by saying security and worship can be successfully blended for those who worship in your facility. No house of worship, HOW, whether church, mosque, temple, or synagogue, is exempt from crime, whether committed by an internal member, a stranger, or as a random act of terrorism. We must consider threats and be ready to respond in a quick, efficient, and effective manner. The security of houses of worship encompasses many components, such as the safety of the congregation or any individual who attends a service or a program, preservation of religious artifacts, protection of fiscal assets and cyber information, medical emergencies, natural disasters, and or acts of terror. Houses of worship are also serving as places of refuge for persons fleeing religious persecution from locations around the world. Each congregation is tasked with the challenge of creating a safe place to worship. Various security precautions can be implemented in a non-intrusive manner, completely unknown and observed by congregants. Now, the Imam in North Carolina, in Greensboro, I think it was, he advised us to use the terminology community service for various reasons, referring to security. People have a tendency to, look at security, okay? People have a tendency to look at security in a threatening manner sometimes, but he told us that we should use that terminology of community service. Now, they began to speak about different incidents that took place, okay? On June 17, 2015, when a 21-year-old shooter entered the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina, he chose a location with only 12 witnesses. A synagogue in Jerusalem will have different levels of threats than a synagogue in the United States, yet each face various threats on many different levels. Now, they didn't talk about Al-Aqsa, which was being terrorized by the government over there, okay? And they didn't talk about, the citizens over there. They tell us that these are Americans that are over there. But many of them have dual citizenship. So they come over there dressed like this and go over there and put on a uniform and get busy. You need to understand that. So a lot of this is that you hear in the media, they talk about hostages. Well, all of the children, the Palestinian children that are in the Israeli prisons, they're hostages. They're not prisoners, they're hostages. They have no authority to arrest their children and lock them up. So this is important that we have a mindset towards that. Everybody, you need to have a security component in your masjid. And training, we will make available to you if you contact me. We intend to do that because at one point we were known as people who had security as a priority. We no longer have that as a priority. And these mass shootings, they're not as random as they would have you think. That wasn't random when they picked that. Even right here in this city of Orlando, they had the Pulse nightclub massacre. And we've had massacres going on all over the country. And so, and believe me, they didn't just start giving us bomb threats after 9/11. I recall when we first opened the Khan Muhammad School in the early 80s in Queens, we were getting bomb threats then, that we better close the school. So we had to make a decision, very tough decision, because we got other people's children as well as my own. Should we keep the school open or should we close every time somebody calls up and threatens to? That's a big decision to make. So alhamdulillah, thank you for your time. I'm rushing through this presentation, but I hope that I was able to raise your consciousness on a certain level. Assalamu alaikum.